the next step that we could go to get something to speak to us was the Ouija board. And we remembered that the woman's body was found in the lake.
A lot of times the location of death is one of the places that we try our hardest to communicate with the entities because they're familiar with the area where their body was found. And we decided we would run one last test on the dock by the lake. 1, 2, 3. Whatever is here, are you evil? We set up a Ouija board on the dock and we began asking questions. Do you want to harm us?
Are you the one that's causing all these problems here at this lake?
We were hearing little splashes here and there. Those definitely could have been fish, possibly.
Are you vengeful? Did someone in this family do something to you?
You've already done so much tonight. Can you please move this planchette and give us a message? You can use our energy through this board to spell something out if you would like to give us a message. You can use yes, no. Towards the end of the Ouija board session, we both heard a splash that sounded somewhat close to us.
And what we saw next will affect every night of sleep that I have for the rest of my life.
Hey, what is up, everybody? I hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday. Also hope you guys are enjoying the new layout of how I'm presenting some of my information on this page. Still gonna I can't even talk already. I'm still going to be doing reaction videos. Of course, I mean, I enjoy a lot of YouTubers' work, but I'm touching on some fringe topics that have always interested me. May not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm coming at this from a neutral point of view, let's just say. Even though I have strong beliefs in what some of the information I'm presenting is about, there are still some things that I'm kind of on the fence about and want to make a conclusive decision. One of those things being the field of paranormal, or the paranormal field, I should probably say. God, I already sound out of it. Yeah, long day already. Anyways, my curiosity stems back all the way from the mid-1990s, so this was before the very first popular ghost hunting show, which would have been TAPS, the Transatlantic Paranormal Society. They even did a little skit on them on South Park, if you guys recall, for the South Park fans, that every little noise was like, oh, that's a ghost. But I had a passion for the paranormal since I could remember. I don't know why. I can't explain why. I just have always felt, you know, there has to be something if the same type of stuff is being reported, you know, around the world from people who don't really, and this is pre-internet, mind you. You know, this is stuff that, you know, I was reading about in certain magazines of people describing, you know, one thing in their country and the same thing happening, you know, in our country, or stories that were passed down from generations about my mom telling me, you know, a couple of stories about how it was when she was growing up in Mexico. And coming to the United States, I hear a lot of very similar stories. So it really sparked my interest. Before I finished high school, I was working for a company called Agilent Technologies. They bought out a portion of Hewlett Packard. And I used to do data entry. I would get the sales orders from like Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, all these manufacturers of, you know, high-end equipment, whether if it was going to be on a satellite, a plane, a missile, whatever. And I would make sure, you know, that all the information was scanned into the system and that it was accurate. But during my downtime, mind you, this is the infancy of the internet. There used to be this web page called Shadowlands Ghost Page. And they had archived, up to that point, the best ghost photos that have ever been released. Now, mind you, this is 1996, 1997, somewhere around there. And on one of the tabs, there was how to conduct your own paranormal investigation. So I'm like, oh yeah, I am completely up for this. So I convinced my two lifelong friends, my two buddies. I'm like, hey, let's go give this a try. Let's go see how this is. And convinced them to go with me. And they came with me to one of the most haunted areas in Colorado, which is called, it's a little town. It's more touristy now, but it's Georgetown. And why it's the most paranormal, I believe it was because there was a lot of mining deaths. At the time, you had the silver boom. Georgetown was known for that, for just, you know, another mining town. Once they cleared out all the mines of all the silver they could find, you know, they just picked up and moved on. Whatever was left of Georgetown, some people stayed. But a lot of paranormal activity started being spotted in Georgetown. What I had found out about the little bit of studying that I did was one of the most haunted parts of Georgetown is a cemetery called the 100-Foot Cemetery. I always wondered at first, like, why do they call it the 100-Foot Cemetery? Well, it's built into the side of a mountain with a slope of about maybe, let's say, I don't know, 20 to 30 degrees. So not too steep. And you look at the markers, and there's markers there from 1700s, 1800s, early 1900s. And this was purported to be the most haunted location in Georgetown. So, with camcorders at the time, which, you know, were tape camcorders, microphones and audio recorders, all three of us go up there. Okay, so this
and we
video
conduct
that I'm about to pull
our
up next
very
captivated
first
my attention immediately.
paranormal ghost hunt.
It's not the full video, but pay close attention to the gentleman's face and unfortunately what happened later. This is where I think we kind of dive into the realm, and I'll give you the several, I guess, subsets of what paranormal activity is. And of course, this would be considered the worst of them all. So, hope you guys, yeah, it's hard to stomach, in my opinion. When I seen this the first time, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. This is crazy. Also, to kind of bring home a point, if you guys are familiar with, is it the Conjuring stories? Ed and Lorraine Warren, they were actually the ones who filmed this. So, yeah, it was quite a big case for them, and it was quite eerie. So, I hope you guys enjoy this. What I want you guys to do is pay very close attention to his face. Around this area, just pay very close attention, because I have never, and I've watched a lot of exorcism videos, real ones, from my curiosity of this subject, but just watch his face. This is way before things were so easily faked like they are now. I can't say way before, but you know, a long time before people had the access to fake a lot of stuff. But when it's happening the way it's happening in this video, yeah, it's kind of troublesome.
To this, as the bishop chanted to cast out the devil. Nancy Theria was present throughout the exorcism.
When they were doing the exorcism on him, when he turned his head, I saw his face change. I saw the satanic look on his face.
As the video shows, far more was about to change on Theria's face and its expression. As Bishop McKenna chants, Theria's skin seems to bubble. A deep crack has opened on his forehead.
Marie, do you feel anything inside you?
The exorcism worked for a while until he ultimately shot his own wife in the arm with a shotgun and then took his own life. Ed Warren believes the good Morris came through to save his wife, but the demon ended up taking his. So
if that wasn't crazy, I don't really know what else is. From my understanding, out of all the years of just being into this topic, excuse me, there are several types of hauntings. One of them, residual. Second, intelligent. Third, poltergeist. Fourth, demonic. Now, for a residual haunting, we kind of think of any type of song on loop. Everybody who is in the scientific field will say that these hauntings occur because of the leftover energy of some traumatic event. Some things can heighten these hauntings, such as certain rocks like granite. I believe some of them believe crystals. I can't confirm that 100%, but I'm sure a lot of spiritualists would say crystals, you know, since a lot of them believe crystals hold all these different powers. I'm not going against what, you know, people beliefs are, but I personally don't think crystals really do, but hey, to each their own. Another source is water. They believe that a lot of these elements provide enough energy for these spirits to manifest. So when you have a residual haunting, it has absolutely no idea that you would be standing right there while it just loops basically a memory. It could be somebody walking through, let's say, a house that, you know, over 100-year-old house. Over the years, you know, there's been renovations done, and where there was a door, you know, that used to be right, you know, when the house was first built, now is a wall, and you see, you know, a lady in the time period clothing, or a gentleman, you know, walking through that way. It would have been to them like if it was a wall, but since it's a residual haunting, you know, it would have been to them more like walking through a doorway. So automatically it's a ghost. But again, it's not going to interact with you. Doesn't know you're there. Doesn't know it's a ghost. Again, these are all hypotheses. Secondly, intelligent hauntings. Exactly as it sounds. They interact with individuals. A lot of the times, a lot of these ghost hunters don't break from the norm. And that kind of gets frustrating because they don't look outside the box for different ideas. They just improve on the ideas that they already have with certain equipment. You know, a lot of them use an obelisk, which is basically picks up certain type of energy in the air and creates words out of this energy. Now, my first thought when I first heard about them were, okay, that's kind of, you know, weird. What if it's picking up on something that you're saying and just wanting to, you know, validate that? But sometimes they're completely quiet and they just leave it, you know, sitting right there with the static camera on it. And you know, it's just going off saying different types of words. Some of them are meaningful, some of them are just kind of like, you know, that absolutely has nothing to do with what you guys are searching for here. Another one is a spirit box. Now, there's an app on the iPhone called Necrophonics, and what it does is it constantly scans through AM channels. And the reason why AM channels is AM channels have a lot of white noise in the background, just like your TV has back in the day, I should say. The white noise, you know, with the white screen, just, you know, that's essentially what a spirit box is doing, but instead it's going through every AM channel as fast as possible. And let me give you an example here, because I've had this downloaded before because of my interest in the paranormal, and it will start just to go off like none other. So let me go ahead and pull that up. So this is a necrophonic app. Let me start it all over, because usually it tries to have a very spooky opening. No, it's not going to do it. So essentially, when the spirit boxes first came out, that's what they did. They constantly looped, and you could hear the from the channels being changed automatically. What they did was, they were just like every technology, they were able to cut out the whole part to where now you could only hear supposed spirits, and you'll hear tons of different voices. Now, whether or not this is real, I really don't feel like it is, because even if I were to screw around in this house and say some things, I've never gotten a valid answer. And I've said this before, my stepfather passed away in this house. Prior to that, my niece and her husband were allowed to stay here. Now, my mom gave me this house when her husband died. You know, he was a person of means. And so, at the time, you know, I was still married to a psycho. So I had my own house and everything. And then once I got divorced and everything, I moved into this house after my niece and her husband decided to buy their own house. And they had been and have always been haunted by something. I'll get to their story after I show you a little bit about this necrophonic. But if I were, I'm going to turn it on right now. Is there anybody here that wants to say their name? How many spirits are with me? How many spirits are with me? 3? What are your names? So now I turn on the white noise that you could hear the shh. So there's 3 spirits here. If there's 3 spirits here, what are your names? If I turn off the white noise, then I could turn on more of an echo so you could hear it better. Does anybody want to talk intelligently? Echo kind of sucks. No? You don't want to talk? You don't want to speak to me? I think you're too scared and too cowardly to talk to me, so why don't you say something? Are you guys chicken shits? So, everything you've said so far makes absolutely zero sense. Can you say something that makes sense? Okay, I'll give you an easy one. Who died in this house? Who passed away in this house? Makes no sense. Last time I'll ask. Who passed away in this house? So, that's my problem with things like this. A lot of ghost hunters use it, and a lot of purported haunted sites. They're like, oh my god, it said this, it said that. A lot of the times it is completely out of the realm of what they're asking, but they hype themselves up. I often wondered, take a scientist who doesn't believe in any of the paranormal stuff, you know, any of the ufology stuff, blindfold them, take them to probably the world's most haunted places, keep them blindfolded, you know, put some earmuffs on them that they can't hear, and have them sit in a chair, you know, for 2 hours and see if they experience or feel anything, because they're not preconditioned to believe that there are such thing as ghosts, paranormal, anything of the above. Everything is measured and done scientifically. If it can be proven, then there's no reason to believe it. So, a poltergeist, on the other hand, is quite different. Now let me give you an example of a poltergeist. So, here is a very good instance of poltergeist. Now, out of every single ghost hunter video I have watched, and believe me, I have watched a ton, these guys have, let's just say they have, while a lot of them, ghost hunters that I see nowadays on YouTube, are running away, these guys are running towards whatever the hell they're trying to find or see. And they're all from the Middle East. They all believe in what's called a jinn. And a jinn is their version of a demon. In fact, there used to be, while I was married, there used to be this donut shop that every now and then when I would go walking at night, I'd bring home my ex like a apple fritter that was freaking huge from this donut shop. And it stayed open late. And, you know, they were from the Middle East. Very nice people. Every time I went in, you know, one of the guys would be praying on his mat in the back, and then he'd come out and help me. And one night he asked me, like, oh, what do you listen to, brother? And, you know, I'm telling him, like, oh, you know, and this episode on Coast to Coast AM happened to do about jinn. I said, yeah, they're talking about, you know, the jinn. He's like, and his demeanor completely changed. He's like, don't listen to that. Don't listen about jinn. I'm like, are they bad? He's like, just don't listen. Like, he didn't want to elaborate. He didn't want, like, after that, like, you know, he was probably only working there a short time because I didn't see him much after that. But, yeah, it was like his total demeanor changed. He's like, yeah, don't listen about that. With Hassan Barbar, he's Jordanian, and every single one of his videos, he has never chickened out. Like, he experiences some crazy stuff, and he runs towards it. And of course, you know, he's freaking out, and you could tell, but he doesn't let that fear get the best of him. During the whole time, he's saying, you know, a prayer, you know, to Muhammad, like for guidance, protection, and all that stuff. And sometimes he'll bring along other people, but what makes his, you know, videos very interesting is a lot of them are live feed. I mean, you would have to be extremely effing coordinated in order to pull off a live stream ghost hunt. And so this is Hassan Barbar with what is considered a poltergeist. Keeps on opening that up.
The Pursuit. In this video, Jordanian explorers Hassan Barbar and Ahmad Salih team up to explore an abandoned house that is allegedly haunted by the spirit of a witch or female jinn. Now, this one is different from many of the videos that I've featured in that both explorers have their cameras running, so we get two views of what's happening. The ghost hunters are broadcasting each of their feeds live simultaneously on Facebook and Snapchat. So, not long into the investigation, Hassan notices something strange at the end of a hallway.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن. شو هذا؟ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Some dark figure seems to be peering at Hassan from around a doorway. But when he runs to investigate, there's nothing there. But when his friend Ahmad turns his camera toward the same doorway that Hassan has just passed through, things get truly bizarre.
حياة الله في حدا.
إخوان الله العظيم كان في شيء.
شو هاد؟
The black figure is caught on camera again, but this time it seems to be turned and watching Hassan right behind his back. Ahmad charges toward the figure.
بسم الله. حسن؟ حسن؟ انت اللي واقف هون؟ انت اللي بصور. كيف انت؟ كيف؟ بس فهمني اياها كيف انت؟
هاي بصور
يا بني ادم، في واحد كان اسود بسود هون واقف، شو مالك؟
مش حدا والله ما في حدا يا احمد.
يا زلمه والله العظيم كان في حدا اسود بسود.
والله انا كنت جوا هسه طلعت لما ناديت عليك قعدت انادي عليك.
يا اخوان المتابعين معي، بربكم ما في كان واحد اسود واقف هون محل حسن؟
The mysterious dark shape disappears again, and Ahmad seems a bit angry, as if he might think that his fellow explorer Hassan is pulling a prank on him.
والله العظيم كان في حدا اسود بسود.
والله انا كنت جوا هسه طلعت لما ناديت عليك قعدت انادي عليك.
يا اخوان المتابعين معي، بربكم ما في كان واحد اسود واقف هون محل حسن؟
As they continue to explore, the strange black mass seems to be following them.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. بسم الله الرحمن.
ايش
بسم
في؟
الله.
شو في؟
دقيقة.
Now they believe this dark shape might be the witch or female jinn who haunts the house. However, they just can't seem to catch up with the figure. But maybe they don't really want to.
اخوان يا واحد بلاحظ ايش وراي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق.
شو مالك؟
بسم الله. بسم الله.
ايش في؟
بسم الله.
شو في؟
احمد.
Hassan notices in his camera feed that someone or something seems to be following right behind him, and he doesn't want any part of it.
I don't blame him.
He gets out of there as quickly as he can, seemingly on the verge of tears. The two explorers end their investigation shortly after this encounter. So, Did Jordanian ghost hunters Hassan Barbar and Ahmad Saleh catch a witch or a jinn on camera? Or is it all just an elaborate hoax?
Okay, so before I end this, I'm going to share this, and then I'm going to share the remainder of the opening of this video. Now, demonic. That is by far the most troubling, the most worrisome, and downright scariest type of haunting. These are entities that are intelligent hauntings that basically are there to create havoc on you, your family, all those you love and care for. If it comes in the form of scratching you, oftentimes there will be a mark going across your back of a scratch of 3, which a lot of people will hypothesize the number 3 as a mock of the Trinity, God, Spirit, and the Holy Ghost. They look for souls to take over, for taking over the body and the possession of someone's, soul to capture for their own. The exorcism that I had showed early on obviously would be a demonic possession. This is not so much a demonic possession as it is, if it is real, then it's extremely freaky. However, I did have my reservations, and I do have my reservations about it, because the guy is filming like this, like normal, camera straight ahead. But he's given enough room. He's not filming straight center. He's giving a lot of room to show where what comes up. So, let me know if I'm reading into it. If not, before I end it, I'll show you my photo of what I captured here in my house. And this is the only thing that has ever happened to me while I've lived in this house. But here is this.
Demon down the hall. Supernatural investigator Cody Aaron says in his YouTube and TikTok videos that he doesn't believe that ghosts are real, or at least that they aren't the lingering spirits of humans. Instead, he believes that all paranormal experiences are actually demonic in nature. Cody says that he has successfully helped troubled families struggling with demonic presences for years.
See it? I think he gives too much room on that side. Maybe it might just be me, but there's a better view of it. Right there. What looks like the face and hair of a little girl. Now, yes, her face does match the background, the coloring. I mean, in a way, could it be a jacket draped over a chair and we're just getting that pareidolia effect? Because again, her face perfectly blends in with the paint. Or are we getting a full-on poltergeist, demonic entity watching him? And why didn't he notice? If he has helped all these families, why didn't he notice that? Something so obvious right off the bat. And he covers up, doesn't go use the same angle that he did before, so we cannot tell if something slipped away, moved off to the side real quick or whatever. But
and there's no motion detection right there. That is nuts. Look at that.
I know that's green now. Oh no, it did. Listen to this.
Let's do it. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna need Eric's help for this. I'm not gonna do this by myself.
Cody is shocked when suddenly a loud voice yells, "Leave." So could it be that the office building is haunted by a demonic presence? Or could it all just be an elaborate hoax? You decide. You can...
Was when I would go on a walk. And every night I'd walk 2.5 miles one way and then 2.5 miles back the other way. So 5-mile walk every single night. And not once through all the time we were together, married or dating, did I ever go out with my friends, ever do anything without her. So that was like my time. And I remember we lived in the suburbs, and some of the, streets don't have, the greatest of lighting, they're real dark. And I remember while I was listening to this episode of Coast to Coast, the demonologist came on, and the demonologist is playing some of the exorcisms that he was a part of and some of the demonic entities that he caught on his recorder. And I remember and this is the first time this had happened to me, I remember just freaking the fuck out walking through this park that is pitch black. And I'm like, holy shit, like, this is scaring the living hell out of me. Like, I couldn't wait to get out of there. Like, I was legitimately scared. And so that's one of the few times that I became frightened. What I'm going to show you next is what actually happened to me here in this very home. So, as I mentioned earlier, I had told you guys that my I don't know why I said my stepfather had passed away in this house. Very sudden, but there didn't appear to be any pain whatsoever. And it wasn't long until he was found. In fact, I still remember that day like it was yesterday. I had just gotten off of work. I was sitting in the backyard, and my ex had just gotten home, and so every time that had happened, I'm already like on stress level 10, and so I'm outside smoking a cigarette, watching my dog, having fun, just jumping around, playing and all that. And I get a call on my phone, and it's my mom. And we're the type of family, our whole family, that just calls one another and like, hey, how's it going? Good, and you? Good. How's work? A little bit busy. Feeling okay? Yeah, everything's good. Okay, well, just called to see how you were. Love you. Love you too. Bye. We'll do that a couple times a day. That's how close of a family we are. So it's not unordinary for me to get phone calls from my mom at any time. And she calls me up and she said, hey, she's like, Dan is dead. And I'm like, what? She's like, I came home and Dan died. And I'm like, hold on, I'll be right there. And we live in the suburbs, which is about 5 minute, 10 minutes most drive to here, which is more of the Denver suburbs. We lived in the Lakewood suburbs. And so we make it here, and there's a cop here, very nice lady. And she could see that the family and everybody's shown up, in the immediate family. And, you don't know what to do when something like that happens. So my mom's kind of like pacing back and forth. And I told my ex, I'm like, stay outside. And I told my brother, which was odd because my brother's older than me. But my brother doesn't, he has his own story to tell. And I'm not going to say what happened to him. But let's just say something did, and he's never told anybody, but he doesn't want to see awful things like that. He did in his youth introduce me to videos like Faces of Death, Traces of Death, all those, very gory type of videos, but, and had the opposite effect on me. Instead of being enamored with that kind of shit, it just grossed me out. I'm like, I can't believe how evil this world is. And something happened to him where he's just completely changed. And, he has his flaws as a person, but he's a good man, good provider. Been married since he was 19, and they're both 53 now. Their birthdays are a month apart. They have 3 children. Very, I thought that's how marriage was supposed to be. Little did I know that me and my ex would divorce, 2 years later. But anyways, my mom said she had came home, and my stepfather used to really love sandwiches. And so she had brought him home a sandwich, and she's like, hey, Dan, wake up. everything. And he was known for drinking. I mean, he had just retired, and like I mentioned before, I mean, he was a man of means. He had, already, bought this house that I'm living in, just completely off. He had about 5 cars, classic cars in the garage that's here, 5 more in his cabin, his 10,000 square foot cabin in Grand Lake, with the property that he owns up there. A couple skidsters, a trailer, a large tool shed that he had built here. I mean, so, if you were to see him, you would think like, this dude's a bum. I mean, he showed up to my wedding just like in a regular button-down Hawaiian like shirt and jeans, and that was it. Like, never ever dressed up. Oh, and wearing a hat. I mean, never ever dressed up. Didn't care what people thought of him. And he was just a cool guy though. Like, he was of that old school class that, you go up, you shake his hand, you introduce yourself, and he really takes a liking to you. And God bless his soul, if he would have known everything that had went on with me and my ex-wife, he would have been heartbroken, because he really loved my ex-wife, but she was such a phony. So, he would have found that out, and I'm sure it would have bothered him either way, but he really loved her because she talked to him. At least she didn't ignore him. And some of my family, even though they were taught to have more respect, they would often not, say hi or whatever. And since he was old school, he didn't appreciate that at all. But anyways, I told my ex-wife and my brother and everybody, I'm like, just stay out here, I'll go in with Mom. And he's laying on the floor, and I'm like, did he die on the floor? And she's like, no. She's like, I called 911. They told me to lay him down and start doing CPR. And she's like, I could hear the wind coming out of him, but I couldn't, it wasn't working. She's like, and he wasn't cold to the touch, so he must have just died like half an hour ago or so. I don't know how long it takes a body to get cold, or for the rigor mortis to start setting in. But it just looked like he cracked open a beer. He loved to drink beer, and took a swig off of it, and it looked like he honestly just fell asleep. His face was just calm. Didn't look like he was in agony whatsoever. And so that gave my mom some solace. But who wants to live in a house where that your husband or wife has died in? And my mom sure as shit didn't. So she allowed my niece and her husband to stay here. And I may have mentioned it in this video, but let me just kind of reiterate again. When my niece and her husband moved in, they experienced a lot of weird shit. But the thing is it has followed them around everywhere they've gone. Every house that they've been in, something weird has happened. She had a video. She wouldn't send it to me out of respect for her husband, but they have all the controllers to the TV and everything. They show their hands that they're not doing anything, and on the TV it's almost being used like a Ouija board, to where it's just typing out her husband's father's name, their last name, my niece's name, who he never had a chance to meet, like all this weird stuff that only his father would have known. And my niece is just crying hysterically. She would also mention that, she would walk in the kitchen, leave, come back in, and all the cupboards would be open. My niece's husband had his sister staying here, and basement's like an upstairs, and she said something was shaking her bed violently one night. So they've experienced a lot of weird stuff, but once they left, nothing. But I did capture one thing. Ever since then, I have never seen it again. I have never heard anything in this house. I have never seen anything in this house other than this. And I said I was going to share it with you guys earlier. I cut my face out on it due to the fact that, one, I looked like I was halfway out of it. I was all like really tired. It was a shitty webcam, shitty computer. It was the first one I ever bought. It's when I first moved in. And this is the only thing I've ever caught in this house. Let me shrink myself down here so you can see it better. Right there. Now it won't scroll out anymore, but right here, from here to here, is about a 4 foot to 5 foot tall by 9 to 10 foot long stained glass window. Absolutely beautiful. He loved antiques. As you can see right here is the thrushway to the doorway. You walk through here, and then over here is the kitchen. If you walk and take an immediate left, you go down the stairs, and here's the door to the carport outside, and there's a big iron gate, locked gate, and then he has a 5-car garage over here and a big ass tool shed right here. And what I was doing was I had just got a pair of these headphones. They're Sony WH-1000 XM4s. Sweet ass headphones. Absolutely love them. I wanted to see if there was anything comparable on the market, so I bought these Sennheisers. I believe that's what they're called. Comparable in price and everything. And that's what I was looking for that night. You know, to see, you know, reviews. I'm always into reviews like CNET and all that. And then I start fucking around with the webcam, and I catch this. And I really didn't pay attention and notice it at first because I was so out of it, so tired, that it wasn't until the next day I'm like, what the f is that? I mean, this is the middle of the doorway. For one, I have absolutely no reason but ridicule or being trolled or being made fun of for something that I'm trying to fake. Why would I want to fake something to just hear people like, oh yeah, you just did this or did that and blah blah blah? Like, no, I didn't do that. In fact, this is what I really caught off the shitty webcam, and out of all the pictures that were there, this is the only one. For the second sake is I completely blocked my face, which of course I was trying to stay anonymous when I posted this on Reddit. But other than that, I didn't, you know, I didn't care, you know. I'm like, you know, what do you guys think? I mean, this looks like a shadow person. And this is the only thing I've ever seen or caught to this day. When I turned around, I didn't see it with my own two eyes. I've actually gone out in the living room and turned on the flash and everything. I've taken random pictures. I've taken a digital recorder and placed it there all night and then listened to it throughout the day. Never have caught a single thing. Not once. So I don't know if this was, you know, a residual from my niece and her husband, or if this was, you know, my stepfather's, you know, soul, you know, watching over the house, watching over me. But it was just really weird. And so that was my experience. And now to finish off the rest, I'll go ahead and play the video that started this whole topic. You know, let's see this again. This is just, yeah, something else.
For the rest of my life.
Is there more than one of you here? Can you give us an initial? Can you give us your name? Can you give us anything?
Fuck this. When we looked out to the lake to see what was making this noise, I could see what clearly looked like to me. I mean, crystal clear. The top of like a woman's head peeking at us out of the water. I could see eyes. I could see hair. I could see wet hair.
You have no idea what it's like to experience that type of thing. And so without even a second thought or look or guess or asking each other's opinion, we were fucking gone.
We ran.
I don't care what the critics say. I don't care what people at home saying.
It was fucking scary. It's by far the scariest thing that I've ever seen with my own eyes.
And so me personally, I haven't experienced anything that would make me be a true hardcore believer in the paranormal, but yet I do believe that there's more to this realm than what we're really aware of. I just, you know, the majority of ghost videos you see are, you know, shit being thrown around, doors being rattled, things turning on and off. I mean, if that's a ghost, if that's the afterlife, then fuck, why there be any existence? I mean, what fun am I gonna find in, you know, like doing stuff like that? I mean, of course, I don't know if that's exactly what's going on. I mean, but kind of sounds a little, you know, a little odd that that's, you know, the way of life once you know, pass away. But again, it was just, it's just something that I can't explain. And so, in closing, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've ever experienced anything that, you know, you might consider to be, you know, paranormal in your home, or, you know, if you have friends or family that have experienced something and you've seen it firsthand, or videos firsthand. I mean, I'm extremely interested in the topic, you know, always down to go ghost hunting with people who, you know what they're doing. And if it's something that you're interested in doing, one thing I would suggest is always say a prayer before you begin. Whether or not you believe in God, whatever you have spirituality in, pray that there's a barrier of protection on you, and that whatever you're there searching for does not follow you home. Because there are a lot of times, and you can ask almost every single ghost hunter, you know, do you think something has followed you home? And each and every one of them will say either yes, or yes, there's a possibility, or I've said, you know, a prayer to keep these spirits at bay to make sure nothing has followed me home. So just always be mindful of that if you ever conduct one of these paranormal searches. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm not on Instagram and Twitter much, but, you know, I was advised, hey, you know, you should start one, you know, start a social media sites and all that stuff. You know, while I get down on Facebook, I don't check my Instagram that much, but if you want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I'll leave that information in the description. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I know I got to get better at saying this, but, you know, if you don't mind, like, subscribe, you know, feel free to comment, especially like if there's something that I could do better, you know, whatever your opinion is, let me know, because I'm always down to try to improve, and we could all improve in certain areas. So yeah, let me know. Also, if there's a topic that you'd like me to cover that I haven't covered, I'm totally down to do that as well. You know, these videos are gonna start getting a little bit more polished the more and more I'm used to doing them. This is my 4th one, I believe. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys will subscribe. And until next time, take care of each other. Watch over each other's back. And I'm out. Have a good one.